Hey everyone, welcome to the introduction to a new Fire Emblem Let's Play, and today we're going to talk a lot about three houses and the dichotomy between what two good players think are the best formula for beating Maddening mode in three houses. On the one hand, there's this wonderful article by well-known three houses seasoned veteran Rengor 1997. He says, quit the stat race, and he explains a lot of methods how you can circumvent the super high benchmarks that you want to hit in Maddening mode to actually win, because turns out Maddening mode kind of difficult. On the other hand, there are other players who disagree and say no, simply stat stack harder, and if you want to hit a benchmark, you can make yourself hit that benchmark, kind of like how people talk about Conquest Lunatic nowadays. And one of the players who believes that, if not the only player who believes that, I don't know, is Raisins, and he's here with me. Hi, Raisins. How are you doing?
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm not the only one who believes it. There are dozens of us, believe me. Dozens. Yeah, no, so many of us. No, I've spoken with Rengor a lot about the matter and have a lot of respect for Rengor. Sounds like he has a lot of respect for me. We talk a lot of crap in VC whenever we're together. But yeah, no, I really do like this article. This was released in 2020, so at the very start of the Three Houses meta. This article that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And Rengor was basically showing off all the ways that you can cheat stat benchmarks or just cheat the whole stat growth system in general by using things like gambits, by using things like doubling combat arts, or by scaling combat arts. And this article is like very good. And to its credit, by the way, a lot of the things that I use to quote unquote win the stat race, which is probably a tagline you would bring up a bit later, are actually enumerated in this article. Things like class minimums, things like using battalions, are things which I use a lot as well. So
it's not exactly like opposing like ideas entirely, right? It's like a Venn diagram almost.
Exactly. And to be frank, there's actually a lot of overlap because, you know, Rengor is very good at the game. He knows a lot of the things which are strong. I also know a lot of the things which are strong, and we use them both. I think the difference is, if there were a key difference to my playstyle over Rengor's playstyle that I would like to use as like here's why my playstyle would be attractive to you, is I do think mine requires less grinding overall. So I do spend a lot less time grinding out masteries. I do spend a lot of time grinding out specifically advanced masteries, and I do spend a lot less effort trying to get things like A rank weapons for doubling combat art. I usually don't try and put a ton of work towards those things.
Yeah, one of the reasons I want to do this playthrough is not just because it's Three Houses' 5-year anniversary this year, but also because, as it turns out, Three Houses has a lot more depth than people give it credit for. So what I'd like to do today is explain a couple of reasons why that is and get into the nitty-gritty with a couple of these step benchmarks. Before we get into that, I think it would be fair to Rengor to kind of summarize the ideas in this article before we look at what you disagree with, basically. So,
of course.
I don't want to read through the whole article because you can just read it yourself and it would be very boring. But the ideas are basically, from what I can tell, if a unit doesn't need to do anything stat-wise, then like Linhardt, if they're just using Warp, then all you care about is a little bit of magic, and that's about it. So some units just don't need stats, you don't have to worry about them. That's the first paragraph summarized, I think. Let me know if at any point I'm being unfair, by the way. I know you're very familiar with this with these ideas as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is true. Matter of fact, I have a lot of units who just don't really get combat sets at all. I'm very well known for bringing like level 11 units into the final chapter and whatnot. Just like they just are doing totally fine in their intermediate class or whatever. So yeah, I'm very well known for that.
Yeah, and we have a sort of team planned out for the playthrough as well that will exemplify a lot of these philosophies. It's going to be a very nerdy video if you haven't already noticed. I've used the class system is basically certification, which is, I don't know if it's called stat stacking, but he basically says if you certify for a class, you get that class's base on your units before any of the modifiers they add. For example, Armor Knight has a base 12 defense, and on top of that, if you were to reclass to Armor Knight, you also get some extra defense from the modifiers. And Rengor says abuse that to your heart's content so you don't have to worry much about stat growths, right? That's basically the point.
Absolutely, yeah. Earning the minimums is a very important part of both of our play styles. I extend it a bit further than just Armor Knight. I also really enjoy the Thief certification, Thief giving 11 Dex, 11 Speed minimum. At the time when you get that, it's enough speed to actually double a lot of the enemies whenever you want to do it. So you have like 13 speed when you're in Thief itself, and then you can rally it for higher up to 17 speed, and then you're like super doubling everybody. So the most important part of the minimums is Armor Knight is a good intermediate cert, Thief is a good intermediate cert, and then, in my opinion, when you hit 20, you need to cert any advanced class, just anything, even if it's not the one that you're going to be using all the time.
Yeah.
Just cert anything for the 17 strength, 14 speed.
Does it matter for magical units as well? As much? Is it the same thing there with the advanced class like bishop?
Oh
and,
gosh,
warlock. It sounds like it's not as important because if it was, you would have remembered it. Probably.
Well, magical units are reaching level 20, right? Am I right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, it's a bit harder for them because bishop and warlock are solo A certifications, so it's a bit trickier for them.
Yeah,
to earn the 17 magic.
They have like some classes have like multiple weapons you want to be good at, which is usually like B and C or B plus C plus, whereas single ones is like you just have to hit A in one weapon, which is really B plus. By the way, you just have to reset a little bit.
Yeah, B plus something. And the solo weapon certs for advanced are way harder to cert than the BCs or the BBs usually. Well, actually almost all the time.
Yes.
So
I noticed that too.
Yeah. It's really like really hard to cert these, but for the magic unit minimums, I know a lot of people are actually a fan of putting them in, say, Darkfire or Valkyrie instead when they reach that point, and I think that's like fine. You don't get minimums really, but it's fine. Like, definitely try to go for Warlock or Bishop if you can, I think, though.
Okay. Then abilities are really important. Raisins mentioned earlier that grinding is kind of annoying to do sometimes, and sometimes you want to go to the next class but you're still trying to get something. But some abilities are just too good to pass up, and it can be worth staying in a ability-based class, like Mastering Brigand, Mastering Archer are the biggest examples, I think. Getting Deathblow and getting hit plus 20 are very important. And in a way, I think those are stat stacking, but are also just really important to hit. And in this playthrough, I will not be doing a whole lot of grinding. I'll try to do like limited to a minimum, but I'll probably want some of these. So there will be some of it off screen, but I'll mention it when it happens. It's basically going to be like 1 or 2 auxiliary battles where I get it on a bunch of people probably. That is the plan.
Yeah, and look, if you want to go into a map and do it, absolutely go ahead. Like, you know, it's your game and you play it the way you enjoy it. This is probably the paragraph with which I have the largest disagreement. I very often try to go without earning class masteries if I can. Matter of fact, when I did my 0% growths run, there were no class masteries allowed whatsoever. None at all. Not even HP 5.
Why?
Like which? Oh, it was just in the rules. I didn't use them. So I mean, I'm a well-known hit plus 20 hater. I think like this is totally unnecessary almost all the time. And things like, I think like Deathblow and Darting Blow are maybe the next strongest ones, but I still, honestly, kind of like out of pride, try to go without earning them or using them if I can.
That is surprising to me because they give you plus 6 in some benchmarks, and you're just passing them up like that.
Usually, I'm just able to meet the benchmark anyway. I think my usual attitude towards class masteries is units who are doing a lot of combat are probably good, because if they're bad, I'm not putting them in combat. So, no, really, like, I will say, by the way, my playstyle does bench units very frequently. If they're bad, they just get benched. And so, if they're on the field and they're earning the 60 combats or the 100 combats needed to master the class, that means that they're probably good. And so, if they're good, then they don't really need these things too much. So, this is especially true of advanced and masterclass masteries. I just never earn those things ever, never incorporate those into my strategies. But, you know, Deathblow, Darting Blow are pretty good. I sometimes earn those just cause.
Yes. The latter half of this also points out Vantage Wrath combos, most famously Dimitri. I can't believe I didn't say this until now, but the thumbnail probably says so, or the title of the video probably says so. We're going Blue Lions route. It's not going to matter a whole lot when you look at the team. It's going to matter a little bit. But one common way to cheese the game, besides like Lamau Go Wyvern Rider, is to use Dimitri with Battalion Wrath and Battalion Vantage. You put his battalions to 1/3 health, and you get enough strength to 3-shot enemies, and then you win the game. You put like Retribution on him, so he counters everything. Everything just dies. I'm gonna try not to do that in this playthrough, because I'm trying to do different things this time. I might end up doing it anyway in the case of Dimitri, because it's fun. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how well I can resist it when we're going into part 2.
It's a real joy. I mean, I'll convert you into a battalion desperation gamer. That's what it's going to be, right? Yeah, no.
So bad.
I use a lot of battalion desperation. That skill owns. Are you kidding me? No, I use it a lot. Like, it's quite good.
Is that the Cavalier Mastery?
That's the that's the one where
I know what it does. It's like you double, right? You double before you get the counter.
Yeah, if you double, all of your attacks go in first.
Yeah.
I actually use that one a lot. I think in my 0%, there were more Battalion Desperation procs than there were uses of Swift Strikes and Vengeance and Point Blank Volley combined. So
fair. Then he goes into battalions and gambits are overpowered, which is basically just saying hey, use these tools that you get. I don't think there's any disagreements here, right? Just
yeah,
get the right
they're very good.
for the right situations.
I will say, like, learning which of the battalions are good does take like a lot of memorization. So if you're new to Three Houses and you're watching alongside and you're like, oh my god, I don't know which battalions are good, don't worry, that's normal. I think everyone goes through that a lot. There's several hundred battalions in the game. I think like 200 or something battalions, and not knowing off the top of your head which one has good prot or good attack or good hit or a good gambit it takes some time to learn it. So, but definitely I use a lot of battalions to get the correct stats in particular, and also to use utility gambits. And as Moon, we have a lot of utility gambits.
Yeah, I think those are the easiest ones to memorize because they're so distinct from when you use them, especially Strike, which you get very early in the game. I think everyone knows that's good. I'll use it still because the game is going to be boringer without it. Impregnable Wall, I know it's really good. I sometimes struggle to find uses for it because it also hurts your own offense so much. You basically turn any damage that anyone would do in either combat to 1, which is good to get to places, but then from there you do need to be able to take advantage, and that's what I usually struggle with. So I'm going to try to make use of that. And then Blessing is just something that is just, it gives you an extra 100% miracle proc. You always survive with 1 HP as long as you can.
That's right.
It's busted.
Yeah, all these are very good. Wall, one of my favorite gambits. It's super good. I said Wall's one of my favorite gambits when it is like technically a stat cheat gambit, but hey, cut me some slack, okay? Like this thing owns. One thing about battalions is, I don't think you've mentioned how much we're going to be using the DLC this playthrough, or no?
I didn't get into it. No, this is a large bullet point that we're here for, but I guess it kind of overlaps with the others. Yeah, we are using some DLC, so I guess there'll be some DLC battalions as well.
Yeah, there's a couple fun utility gambits in the DLC battalions too, so we'll enjoy them.
Yeah, we'll see how I'm a little torn about the DLC because I kind of want this playthrough to be a little bit replicable for people who didn't want to buy the DLC, but at the same time, as you'll see, part of the point is to show off some DLC. Let's finish the article first, and then we'll specify a little bit more.
Please.
Combat arts. I mean, we kind of went into it. I'm gonna try because Rangor says like, if you use something like Hunter's Volley or Fierce Iron Fist or Swift Strike for point blank volley. All these are just like brave combat arts that make you attack twice, and they are good to turn a not so good unit into like serviceable player face attacker. And for a lot of units, they're kind of reliant on it. A lot of units are known for them. Shamir is known for Hunter's Volley. Swift Strikes is something that Ferdinand does a lot, that Sylvain does a lot, that Seta does a lot. Point blank volley is I think something that Leone does, and Cyril.
Leone and Cyril.
Yeah. So they're like brave combat arts to cheat basically the speed benchmarks. But I think if you ask Raisins, he'd say something like, well, just learn to double. Just get enough speed to double, and you don't need these, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like Point Blank Volley because it shows up at C+ on Cyril, so you get it like super early. But yeah, no, Hunter's Volley, Fierce Iron Fist, Swift Strikes, I don't... Swift Strikes maybe is kind of good, but like Hunter's Volley and Fierce Iron Fist in particular, I mean, kind of similar to what I was talking about with the intermediate class masteries above. If I put a unit through, like 75 or 150 combats in an advanced class, they should be better than not doubling enemies and needing to use like a cheat doubling art in order to cheat, like in my opinion. So I'm a big Hunter's Volley and Fierce Iron Fist slanderer. I don't think that they're very good. And the combat arts early game, I think, are pretty nice. But I think after like chapter 4, I don't really use a bunch of combat arts really.
No, usually if you double, you're going to do more damage with like 2 smacks from a lance than 1 with Tempest Lance, unless your stats are just aligned in such a weird way that you get an Oko with Tempest Lance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I use them from time to time. Like, occasionally there's a cool benchmark that you meet, or like Curved Shot for some extra plus hit or whatever. Yeah, I'm actually surprised Curved Shot, as I mentioned here. Curved Shot's like the GOAT.
Yeah, Curved Shot's great.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it mentions the magical arts down below.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge magical art believer, but that's mostly because I just don't like try to use them. Yeah. If we get into this playthrough and you're like, oh, this magic art goes in here, and it does go in, then I won't deny it. But yeah, that's a good magic art. So I know a lot of people are magic art enjoyers.
I tried them a little bit, but the problem I had, because for one, they're only on a few specific units. I think Frozen Lance is Marianne and Lightning Axe is Annette, and that's like most, if not all of them, I think. and that makes them hard to just utilize on different units. And then it's also like player phase only. Like this, in these cases especially, you're just really relying on your player phase ability to kill things, and you can't really do anything on an enemy phase. Which, I mean, the game is kind of player phase based, or so it's known, but it does kind of suck that you don't have any enemy phase offense at all. Like, at least if someone's using Hunter's Volley to kill things, they're gonna be like, they can counterattack on enemy phase still if they really have to with like point blank, or what's it called, the whatever the archer skill is that lets you counterattack.
Close counter.
Yeah, close counter. You'd still have some kind of defense for yourself, but Marianne enemy phasing enemies with like a forced steel lance or something, this is garbage. So
yeah,
that was one limitation that I didn't really like about it. But yeah, sometimes you can hit Oko benchmarks with those and they're fun. But I don't think there'll be going to be any display through, unfortunately. And then the last one, if we're ready to move on, is like this. I mean, I can't disagree with this now, can I? Just use your good stuff. We'll get good weapons and use them. I think there's no disagreements here, I don't think.
Yeah, I think you're pretty good at this, so...
no, I'm terrible. I have a hoarding problem. Help me, Raisins.
Oh, no, yeah, no, I can't, yeah. I mean, have you seen my stat boosters in my convoy? Oh, man, oh, man. But yeah, no, there's a lot of good weapons in Three Houses. I think there are a couple that we're going to pick up early game that may be from DLC as well.
Possibly.
To use, but, you know, if you don't want to use those, that's totally fine. There are a lot of good weapons in Three Houses, so, you know, I'll be identifying which I think are the good ones, and we'll be using them a lot.
Sounds good. I will generally I'm willing to recruit characters, by the way, just to get something like the Spirit Plus All, by the way. Just thought I'd mention that. Not necessarily restricting myself from recruiting other units.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that covers Rangor's article, and as you can see, it's not as hostile as you might thought I'd make it, as I might clickbait it.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna be like Rangor is a dummy. Like, I'll only say that if he's like present, okay?
I'll say it to his face.
Yeah, no.
We should probably clear up the DLC thing. So part of this playthrough, one of the reasons I want to do this playthrough is because I've never shown off the Ashen Wolves, the DLC characters, Baltus, Yuri, Happy, and Constance. So they're going to be on the team for pretty much the entirety of the game, unless there's a good reason not to deploy them. I know a popular thing to do back when the game DLC first came out was to do a church playthrough with the 4 DLC characters. I think the church route is kind of boring. It's roughly the same as Blue Lions, but I just really find the church route a little bit off-putting, and I think the Blue Lions would be more fun. So they'll be joining the Blue Lions for this playthrough, and we'll go over them when we're going over the team in its entirety. But yeah, we're using the DLC just to get those. We'll talk about exactly what they'll do when they're doing the team overview. Other than that, for the DLC, I know there's some things I absolutely will not use, which are like the counter everything gem that you find under the bed if you turn on the DLC, or the stat booster that you find there. I think those are a little bit too good. Besides that, I'm not entirely sure. I know there's like one weapon, the rapier, that you can get from the
pagan altar.
Yeah, the pagan altar in the, what's the underground place called again? The Abyss.
The Abyss. Well, are you going to use it, or are you going to not use it?
I think I'll use that because it's like,
let's go.
It's just using a weapon that you get a little bit earlier. That's like a minor infraction. But it does feel like pay to win, kind of, so I'm going to try to limit it a lot if I can. Like, if I can get away with not using DLC, for one, because it feels weird to me, but also because I think it'd be cool to show off things you can do without the DLC. And if I'm using the DLC, I would at the very least like to provide alternatives, you know what I mean? And for an example, we're going to get into later, I think for the Rapier, there are plenty of alternatives for what we're going to do with that we can use.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else that came to mind to you because you mentioned for like the DLC? Because I know you mentioned like DLC classes earlier. I'm definitely fine with using those because, like, for example, Dark Flyer for Constance, I'm fine with using that for sure.
Yeah, Dark Flyer's good. Valkyrie's good.
Yeah,
Trickster's good.
Oh
man,
yeah,
oh
Trickster.
man.
Yuri's class. Let's go.
Yeah, hopefully after this playthrough, everybody is a Trickster believer. Like, I love that class. I think it's super good. War Cleric exists. There's also
War Cleric exists.
Yeah, I've never started a War Cleric in my life. I don't know.
That's Baltus's initial class, isn't it, in a DLC?
In the DLC. Yeah, it's his class.
It's so garbo. He's like 5,000 better classes than that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's probably okay. I've just never... the Cert Recs are weird. I never have a unit who just has them on accident. There are a couple other DLC features. There's things like the sauna. There's things like the DLC battalions that you get in Chapter 9. And there are the DLC Paralog rewards as well when you do the DLC unit Paralogs, which are 2 very fun Paralogs.
Yes, and I guess that would mean the Feathers of Dromil, if I remember correctly. The thing that gives you Kanto?
Canto and +1 move.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, I'll probably be able to use that. I think that's fine.
It's a lot of fun.
Maybe not like absolutely abuse it to like make new strategies, but just use it for fun, basically.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Know. It's one of those things where it's like it's really hard to find a way to replicate the Feathers of Dromiel in the main game, but also it's a fun way to show off the DLC. So it kind of conflicts my two different goals, but we'll figure it out along the way. Next thing I want to clarify about this playthrough, because it's also a bit of a challenge playthrough, is I want to show off that Three Houses is not just Wyvern plus support emblem. A lot of people think everyone's best certification or the best physical combat certification is always Wyvern Rider or Wyvern Lord. And while that is often, while it is often the case, and in a vacuum, most people would be best off in a Wyvern, there are plenty of alternative strategies that are almost as effective, or that might even be more effective than sometimes. So I'm going to restrict myself to one of every class when I'm going into a map. So I can't have two Wyverns when I'm starting the battle, basically. I'm allowed to certify people as Wyverns, or certify multiple people to other classes, but I'm not going to bring multiple of one class to a battle, just to show some versatility. It's possible the Wyvern will still carry hard. That's okay, as long as the other units are still involved too. So I think that'll be fun. That's why I've planned classes for each of the units that I plan to use a little bit.
I assume that restriction begins at advanced classes only, or...
Yeah, early on, when everyone is in Noble or Commoner, where they only have like a couple options to certify into, I'm not going to be so strict on that. That's a good point to make, actually.
I mean, that one's obvious, right? Like, you're obviously not going to deploy 2 units in Chapter 2, right? Like,
yeah, you know. I will not be able to stop Claude, Edelgard, and Dimitri from taking the field in Prologue in the same class, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's the playthrough instantly ends. It's over.
Yeah.
Next point, I want to show off that you don't have to grind much. Fortunately, Raisins is from that school of thought as well. So, like I said, only there's a couple of quests in the monastery where it's like, hey, do this battle at some point later, and those battles have set enemies at really low levels, which make them really good for grinding up class masteries. I might do a couple of those to grind, but I'm not going to do a whole lot of that beyond that. So I'll give myself like 1 or 2 opportunities to get like class masteries, and that's it. So for the most part, I'll be relying on Raisins' experience without class masteries to get through the battles.
Yeah, for sure.
Next is kind of related to a previous point, show off other funny non-meta strats that, again, most people think of the game as like Wyvern, and you add in a Physic user, a Stride user, and then you're kind of set for life. Like you have the Scythia Warp or Wyvern forward and they kill everything, which can be a way to play the game, but not necessarily have to be. One funny thing that I think was discovered relatively late in the Three Houses meta was the use of stealth on assassins and I guess tricksters as well. I know Raisins is a huge fan, so that's one thing I really want to show off. Is there anything you can say to convince the audience that this is absolutely worth trying on their own?
Oh, stealth? I mean, for one, assassin is just a good class to begin with. But yeah, also stealth is like... what stealth does is it puts a unit at the bottom of a targeting priority, like period. So enemies cannot attack stealth unless that is their only legal attack. If they have any other legal attack, they will not attack the stealth. So you can slap a lot of support and utility stuff to them if you want, and you can just be wherever. Or you can even just have a good unit in stealth, and you don't have to worry about their bulk whatsoever. It's quite strong, actually.
Is good. Is there anything else you think that doesn't get a whole lot of attention? Like everyone knows Wyvern is good, but not everyone knows Assassin is good. Is there anything else like that?
Oh gosh,
under the radar.
I think you kind of put me on the spot here. I do think rallies are a little bit underappreciated, and I do think cooking stats at the monastery is a little bit underappreciated. I do think both of those things, because they kind of like help you meet stat benchmarks, and some people are kind of content to just get like Hunter's Volley or Fierce Iron Fist or whatever, and then just say, oh, that's enough. So, but yeah, no, rallies and those are actually just like very good for meeting stat benchmarks as well. So,
okay.
I think those are maybe the only things I can think of. That, since you put me on the spot, that's the only thing that comes to my mind like instantly, I will say.
I could swear I warned you that I was going to do this, so I'm sorry if I didn't.
I think you did, and that I just like didn't heed the warning.
So. We did talk about a lot of stuff before recording, so it might have gotten lost in the pile of things. Last, what is this, challenge addition to the playthrough? I'm going to try and limit myself to 1 multi-hit combat art, similarly to the class restrictions. So into battle, I will only bring 1 unit with Swift Strikes, or 1 unit with Hunter's Volley, or 1 unit with Fierce Iron Fists. I think it's highly possible we'll end up with 0, just as a result of like Raisins' recommendations, but it's possible there will be 1, I guess is what I'm saying here, which I'm sure you're happy about.
Yes. Very happy.
With that said, now that the restrictions are clear, I think what we want to do is go over the team, and then we'll do some number crunching on the short-term benchmarks that we want to hit with those units and see who qualifies. So,
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, let's go over the units that I want to use. First off is Byleth. Byleth is good always and can go in like numerous different classes depending on what you want to be. The problem with Byleth is, of course, that you have to sacrifice professor points to gain weapon ranks in a amount that's like useful for certifying. I know I probably want Wyvern really badly. I'm just not sure when I'm gonna have time to work towards it. So early on, they'll probably just be stuck in like, I say stuck, but I know you really like Thief, so it'll probably be like Thief or Mercenary, and then move on to sword-like classes until they're ready for Wyvern. Probably do female Byleth just so we can build with Pegasus Knight, I guess. That seems like a no-brainer. And maybe we'll stick with Enlightened one for a while because it's a free qualification that we don't have to work for. But I hope to get Wyvern before then, right?
Yeah, it should be fine. As you mentioned, Byleth does have the sort of unique challenge of they earn weapon ranks really slowly compared to units, right? Like you spend 1 professor point to get 20 or 30 weapon EXP. Meanwhile, everyone else in the game is getting like 48 of it for free just via goals, right? Much less tutoring. Like just goals are getting them so much more. So Byleth does have a hard time working towards it. Thankfully, Wyvern is very easy to cert due to being BC, and so we can just kind of get that at some point. I think it'll be easier than you think, getting them the ranks for it.
Yeah, I've done it before. It's just theoretically it seems daunting, but I know in practice it'll be fine. Especially when later on, like early on, you want to just focus your monastery, your professor points on getting more professor points. Like you just want PP all the time, basically. Every activity almost you want it to be professor points, and I guess some stat cooking as well, which is also professor points. So it works out fine. But I think like roughly when you're nearly done with part 1, you have more professor points that you know what to do with sometimes, and then you can start really hard focusing Byleth, especially because you can do it multiple times per monastery session. So it should be fine. Dimitri, he's force deployed for a lot of chapters, so I figure we might as well use him. It's one of the best units in the game, so might as well. I already said I don't really want to do Battalion Wrath, Battalion Vantage for the entire game, but maybe we'll give him that, and if we're bored, we could just have him destroy an entire part of the army, the enemy army. I'm probably going to keep him in his own unique Lord classes, just so he doesn't like interfere with other units classes. But I know on the way we'll certify him in certain things. Like it probably will be very easy to get him to Cavalier, for example. And if no one else needs the Cavalier slot, he's probably fine for it. But if not, he has his own unique Lord class early on that he can use, or he can just be, whatever he happens to be in, I guess, and just like go things with Tempest Lance. Like, it's a really powerful dude that we don't have to put a whole lot of work into.
Yeah, Dimitri's like kind of very obviously good. I think this whole, I don't know if it's in parentheses here on the thing, but that he's going to be in his unique class. His unique class does kind of suck just because it's not like Wyvern or Paladin or anything. But but aside from like that one thing, it's like, okay, we'll probably be able to use it just fine.
Yeah. I mean, if Cavalier Paladin ends up being much better, I think he has a riding boon as well as, of course, a lance boon. So it'll be very easy to certify him in those anyway.
Exactly.
Baltus, first DLC character I want to go over. I've actually done 1 or 2 nearly complete playthroughs with Baltus, and to an extent the other Ashen Wolves, so I know very well what he's capable of. I just haven't shown him off to my viewers yet.
Oh, really? Just by yourself? Or?
Yeah, for like a draft run and then a fun run for myself. I just did like Church Route, and that's why I think Church Route is miserable, because I played it.
Oh, come on.
So Baltus has such insane potential for bulk with the King of Grappling personal skill. It gives him like +6/+6. I think it's attack and protection, basically.
Yeah, strength and defense, actually. So
yeah, for I think it's when he's below half HP, so that makes him nearly unkillable when you want him to be. So he's actually part of my initial calculation sessions in a little bit for benchmark hitting, because he's just so good at it, and I think he's one of the best units in the game. Just very easy to use, and he'll probably go for some kind of physical combat class. Obviously, there's like a bunch of them he can certify into very easily, like the armor classes, the fighter classes. Probably some mix of those. Probably not Wyvern. Probably not going to bother with that. But just be a good foot unit that takes hits and kills everything physical. Can even give him some kind of Vantage combo if you want to, but I think he's better off just being immune to physical damage and killing everything.
Yeah,
right?
he's even got that sword boon, so you can Sword Room Thief and have this crazy guy with massive strength and massive defense, and also like 13 minimum speed, right?
Hey, win the stat raise. Win the stat raise. That's smart. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, no, when he gets put together, he's a very strong unit. I remember like when I first looked at his personal, I'm like +6 strength, +6 defense. There's got to be a catch. There isn't. He's just that good.
Getting to low HP can be a little challenging sometimes when he's like too bulky, but you can do things like unequip his shield or something like that. So
okay, come on. If getting to low HP is an issue, then you're just winning. So how bad is life?
Okay, but then you don't do the +6 damage. You know, I want everything.
Oh
all the time.
no, you only just don't die ever. Oh no.
Look, sometimes I've had spots where he gets to like a little above half HP and then dies. That's kind of annoying.
Oh, true.
But
okay.
That is on me when that happens. That certainly is on me. The other thing what I want to discuss, because now we're at units that are flexible for recruitment. I believe the meta for Baltus is like a chapter 2 recruit, right? So he has the fighter boost from his bow rank so he can get archer class easier. Is that correct? I mean, I know you don't like it +20, but that's something I think that's commonly done.
That begins at chapter 3, and that is a very commonly done thing, where you can get him there so that he has the D rank bows. I think the best thing about the D rank bows is that he has curved shots straight away. I do think, however, there's just a very fun benchmark you can reach with him in chapter 2, and so I very often have to do a chapter 2 recruit. Yeah. So we lose the bow rank, but who cares, right? Like, we should be fine.
I did with bow rank last time. I'm down to do without bow rank in this playthrough. Because I do want to use them in chapter 2. I actually have it all lined up in my spreadsheet that I can't wait to show off. But first, Hobby.
Yeah, so, the chapter 3 thing, by the way, will be very good for these next 2 units that we're about to discuss.
Okay, that's good to know. Because I don't remember what I specialized Happy in. I just know that she can kind of do both faith magic stuff or reason magic stuff, but getting both done is kind of hard because she doesn't have a faith boon, if I recall. But she can have like warp physic, all that stuff. Her personal attracts monster damage, like monsters will always attack her over others. It's like a reverse stealth, I guess. So we can use her to keep her safe. We can use, there was like a skill you could give her, right, to make her like really good at baiting monsters, but I don't remember what it was. Is it blessing? Is it just that, like,
some people talk about the Sero shield, which is something that you get from a paralog in like chapter 15 or something. That you use for that. Personally, I like Impregnable Wall. If you just cast Impregnable Wall on Happy and just like throw her in the middle of the monster mosh pit, then you basically just get an entire free turn. Yeah. Right? Because all the monsters will attack her as long as they legally can.
Yeah, but she still does 1 damage, and it's effective technically, right, still? So they still lose 1 of their barriers, right?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. They still lose the entire barrier. So, like, they become dazed, and then the next people can go up. You basically just, like, win monster maps for free with this. She's, like, very good.
Oh, I do look forward to that in chapter 9, is it? The one where you fight all the, just, like, 5 big fire dragons?
Yeah, that one. Sothis Paralog as well, very good.
Ooh, yeah.
Super fun to use her there.
And
yeah, and then she also has, like, Rally Dex, because why not?
Sure, that seems good. So, do you think we specialize in like faith or reason or both for her? Probably faith, right? Because we have no other warp or anything like that. Well, we do actually have one, but you know.
When she joins in chapter 3, she has like a pretty decent reason rank. I think she has like C or C plus. Let me actually take a look right now because I remember she. Wait, I was looking at constant. Sorry, I was on the wrong list. I know that she always has swarm pretty much. So once she gets to Banshee, I think you can usually just stop there, which is at C, and then just like solo faith the entire time, because C is enough to get her the mage class, which is very good for her, right? You know, she has dark spells, so she really wants mage more than like most other people. And for the for the fire spell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the fire spell is very light and very accurate, and that is something that her kit is otherwise lacking. So mage for the fire spell. It's the same reason like Hubert really wants mage more than dark mage for the fire spell access. So, but if you get her like C for Banshee, then you can just like go full faith from then on out.
Makes
probably
sense.
Or you could give her a horse, because then she's cavalier and doing all the happy things as a cavalier.
Yeah, you can get Valkyrie.
Oh, true. Yeah, I forget that class exists, but you can. So
yeah, it doesn't for a lot of people. And then I think Dark Knight is mill only and like master, so it's kind of hard to get one if you're not having the DLC.
Dark Knight women can be Dark Knight.
Okay, it just takes forever.
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is why I'm doing this playthrough, so I'm learning.
There you go.
Right. So Constance, I think you said before the recording that Constance is everything Lysithea promised to be.
Yeah, she is the battle mage for real. She doesn't have a ton of utility. She has like rally magic, and I think I'm looking at her faith list right now. She has like
Rescue.
Ward and rescue. Actually, these are very good. Holy crap! Wait, she has utility as well. Yeah, never. I take it back. But yeah, as far as like combat fighting mages go, Constance is like pretty good. So she's just very strong. I think she like renders a lot of the other kind of combat mages completely like redundant. I feel with how like dominant her magical combat is. But I will say like a bit to her demerit, I don't really enjoy combat mages that much in Three Houses. I think they're like a little bit weak. Mostly due to like no movement and due to their weapons usually being worse than physical weapons in my opinion. But if you have like one or two, then that does give your team like a new angle of attack.
Yeah.
Right. So you usually end up with like one magical fighting unit, and very oftentimes that unit is Constance.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. And I reckon if we get the chance, we could go Dark Flyer to A, show off the class, and B, have more flyers that do not use the Wyvern or Pegasus slot.
Yeah, Dark Flyer's fun. So.
But I know Dark Flyer gets lower magic max than like say Grimoire does, so we'll probably just have to play it by ear, see what we can do. Because if she doubles in Dark Flyer, that's fine too. Like we don't need to one shot with it.
Yeah, Dark Flyer. I mean, it's a level 20 class and Grimoire's level 30 class, right? So like when we get to level 30, we can make that decision. But before level 30, it's probably Dark Fire, right?
I guess so. Yeah, that does make sense. Don't really want to be stuck with like what are the advanced magic classes like Warlock and stuff? Bishop?
Warlock?
Yeah.
I mean, I like Warlock for Constance, actually. It's just good, right?
It's
she has bolting. She can slam people with it, right? So.
That's true. Long range magic is going to be really fun for sure.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah, I didn't find Rescue too useful myself, and I was kind of rare to find Ward useful, but they sure exist, and sometimes they might be good. Might as well
hey, I like Ward.
Yeah.
Ward owns.
I mean, you can't really stack it with Pure Water, right?
No.
Yeah, so, yeah.
But you can't Pure Water and Alert Stance on the same turn, so.
Oh, that's true. And dodge mages or take their hits. How useful.
Yeah, if that comes up.
Okay. Yuri, fast sword dude. I don't really have a class path in mind for Yuri, but I'm sure we'll find one as we go along. I think I did Grappler Yuri, if I'm not wrong, on my playthrough, it was a little weird because he already has the speed to double, so it's kind of weird to give him like the combat art that triples things. So I wasn't fully happy with it, but I just wanted to try a Grappler on my playthrough. I was like, well,
you went full Reddit.
I went full Reddit on Yuri, I will admit. I don't know if there's any reason to go with like a fast sword class, like just using Swordmaster on him, or if it's better to go with something else. I do know that he's going to conflict with another 1 or 2 units later on in our list. So, do you have any thoughts on what Yuri should focus on early on, later on?
The good thing about Yuri is his offensive stats, his strength and his speed are just like very good in general. So you can kind of like recruit him and have this like really fast unit. I personally would like a Chapter 6 recruitment, although we may need to do a Chapter 4 recruitment in order to, or sorry, not Chapter 6, Chapter 7 recruitment. Although we may need to do a Chapter 4 recruitment in order to show off a particular Death Knight DLC strat.
True.
But I do particularly like Chapter 7 Yuri for just showing up, and he has like some insane offensive stats. As far as advanced classes go, he can kind of go into anything and be pretty impressive. His primary issue really is like his HP and his defense stat. I think that's usually the things that like hold him back, if anything. Like I get to late game and I see my Yuri sells like 38 HP. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like
you get like 1 or 2 shot by everything.
Yeah, no. I will say his authority boon oftentimes means that I put him as like some assassin with a gambit. Is a very frequent thing that I do, or maybe like a paladin with a gambit is a very frequent thing that like some support gambit like retribution. On Blue Lions, retribution just D-ranks, that's not really necessary. But really any kind of utility gambit I like putting on Yuri because he's very oftentimes the second person to reach very high authority ranks.
True. We have like 4 guys with authority boons on our team, I think. Guys and girls. Wow, this is a girl.
Yeah, the one.
Constance is 1.
Yeah, Annette is under there. Oh, and Constance, yeah, actually, so 5 so far.
Yeah, so there's a lot overlap there. So I'm not sure if that's like enough justification to keep using Yuri, but you know, I only need a very flimsy one.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we'll figure it out on the way there, I'm sure. Annette is here. I think this is the only blue line that we had until like an hour ago. It was going to be Felix in this team as well. But then there was another unit that Raisins really wanted in, and I was like, well, I kind of got to give it to him. He deserves it. So, yeah, Annette is a blue line. this is one of the reasons why I think the Blue Lions route is fun to do early on, is because you just get access to rally strength and other rallies very, very quickly to, not quit the stat race, and that's really good. I don't know if there'll be a whole lot of levels for Annette, but I assume at least it's productive to get her to at least a turn or 20 to have like more class access, right?
Yeah, usually the struggle with me is actually to get Annette to level 10.
Yeah.
Because her rallies are very good, and rallying doesn't earn EXP, but it doesn't need EXP, right? It just needs authority rank.
Yeah.
So, if we get her to 10 in Cavalier, then that should be good. If we get her to 20, then we can, meme around with, say, Paladin or Assassin or something. I think you have listed on this thing.
Yeah.
Both very good. Or Wyvern, maybe. No, I'm kidding. Or, like, Pegasus to deliver them via flying. But, yeah, Annette's rallies are very good. I think she earns rally speed at C or C+. I'm trying to remember what it is exactly. But she does earn the rally speed very quickly, and then we just have rally strength, rally speed, so all of our offenses are taken care of. We just need rally dex, but Happy's got that, right? So if you really want to power somebody up and send them in there, we've got it.
Yeah, we could just set her to learn authority by like automatic studying or whatever it's called, and it'll happen almost entirely. Although if we want to get rally speed ASAP, we might have to focus on it a little bit with our early thing. That's like one of the things I'm looking forward to planning this playthrough is like, hey, who do you think we should have a meal with? Who do you think we should focus on when teaching?
Yeah, for sure. That is something I get famous for spending a lot of time in Monastery, but I really like Monastery, so
yeah. If you don't have Annette on your team, you can still have her mission assist, by the way, and still get rally speed out of her, or rally strength out of her. Rally speed will be a little bit more difficult, probably. But if you're going
rally
like Deer or Edelgard routes, Crimson Thing. Red Black Eagles. There we go. I was thinking red,
that one.
Black Eagles. Then you can still have a mission assist and get rally strength through that. It's been
and that's very good.
Played. yeah, very good, but very straightforward unit. And then we get to your queen. We get to Manuela.
Manuela, my girl.
On Manuela. I always have her like kind of low on tier lists and stuff. I'm always like, I guess I'll recruit Manuela because why not? But I never really end up using her, except for I have her certified for Pegasus Knight to get the Blue Lion Dancers in the late game a bit more easily. And I'll like have her focus on Faith rank so that if I really need to, I have a warp user I can field. If I did that this playthrough, Raisins would yell at me. I would never stop. So what do you do with Manuela then? What is good?
Oh, I warp. Good? What do you mean?
Just
like
warp.
I do warp. Yeah, I did that as well.
Okay,
I mean,
okay. What I just described is like never using Manuela besides when I do those two things, like get Blue Lion Dancers and need an extra warp. I would never field her otherwise. That I think would insult your very being, probably.
That would. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. No, I like Manuela. I mean, she has a lot of very strong utility, right? She has Rally Charm. She has Warp. Ward and Silence are actually both very good as well. I like them as well. She has a couple magic combat arts as well, so if she just wants to thump people with a magic weapon, she totally can. And her stats are like quite good too. I really like her. I think she's one of the better utility units in this game. And I think we'll recruit Manuela and try to deploy her. There are a couple times when I do what you mentioned, where like I kind of recruit Manuela and then have maybe better things to do, but very often I don't. So Manuela is just very good. I like her a lot.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why some people did like Church plus DLC units playthroughs, is to use the Church units a little bit more and figure out if they're worth using. And people like Manuela, but also like Aloe, and I guess who else is like Church that doesn't get used very often? I guess Catherine doesn't get used very, because a lot of people use Shamir, and a lot of people know what she's good at. So, and Hanuman is another good example of a unit that a lot of people don't use. So I wanted to have. It's nice to have like one good funny Church unit in here, I think, along with the rest.
Yeah, I think. I mean, aside from Shamir and Catherine, I think Manuela is like definitely the next best one there. I think she's just very good.
I think she's
very strong utility.
Like Gilbert, for example. I mean, Gilbert's more like the Alliance, I guess.
Definitely better than Gilbert. Definitely better than Eloise. Way better than Hanneman. I think Hanneman's like the worst unit in the game.
But he has Rally Magic at base, doesn't he?
I mean, so does Constance.
Really? Oh, okay, rip.
Yeah, actually, maybe Cyril's up there too. Man, the Church units are kind of good though. Think about it, except for Hanneman.
It's hard to be really bad in Three Houses. Everyone can be kind of redeemed.
Yeah.
Even Hanuman as Meteor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I look forward to seeing what Manuela can do. Of course, they can't all be assassins, so we'll have to choose a little bit per map. But I'm sure if
we can't put her in.
If she's as good as you say she is, she doesn't need to be an assassin to contribute.
She doesn't need to be in her canon class. That's right. So.
That's right.
Yeah, no.
That is her class. The game tried to tell us all along how good she was in assassin.
Dude, the devs knew, right? It's like, dude, Manuela owns. Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Leonie, another one of Raisins' suggestions. I look forward to using Leonie because she's not in this house, so we can kind of recruit her whenever we want and we feel like her stats would be best. And given what you said about Yuri, I'm assuming we're recruiting her like around chapter 7, right? To get the most out of her maddening extra stat growth thing that the game is going on.
Yeah, I don't know if that thing is like specifically maddening. They do, so when you recruit them, they do use the enemy growths, and enemy Cavalier in particular has like very high strength and defense and HP growths. So she shows up and just has like a ton of hard stats. For example, I do know chapter 12 Leonie, which is something I recruit very often, and actually maybe this is one of the things we thought about here. But chapter 12 Leonie shows up and she has like the same strength and defense as Gilbert, right? When she shows up. But she has like +9 speed on top of it, or not +9 speed. She has like +9 speed over advanced minimum, so she's like crazy fast as well when she shows up. So I think this is something where we can recruit her in like somewhere in chapter 6 through chapter 12 if we want, and just see how she is. I think probably before that point we'll be using Felix, and then what we can do is we can just evaluate Felix versus Leonie at the moment and just like see kind of who's better. I will say one of the methods that I use to win the stat race is out of house recruitment. I very often have like this kind of rotating schedule of recruitments that I use to make sure I'm always getting this income of people with very good stats. And so these kind of like late recruitments is a tool that I use, and I'd like to be able to show that off with maybe a late recruit Leonie.
That's fair. Is that something, because I forgot to write it down, is that something we can do for Manuel as well? Or do you want to like recruit her ASAP?
I want her ASAP in chapter 8.
Okay.
So
makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
so far the recruits I've suggested delaying are like Yuri and Leonie.
Yes. And they're all optional, of course. And we can recruit, like I said, we can recruit other units. That's why I have a flex slot at number 10. Where right now I have written down that I would like Shamir and Catherine to be in there at some points, but I don't know how well their stats will hold up in the long term. And so we can also have like a late recruit, I don't know, Hilda or something come in to replace them for a little bit, or maybe even permanently, just to have an open option. I know, Raisins, you're a big fan of Shamir and not just in Sniper, so what do you usually do with Shamir if you use her?
Shamir, and specifically not Sniper, please. So Shamir shows up in chapter 6 with advanced minimums, and she also has her personal survival instinct, which I used to be a hater of survival instinct, but now I think it's really good. If Shamir procs survival instinct, she is the fastest unit you can recruit in chapter 6. She's faster than Petra, she's faster than Yuri, she's faster than everybody.
And all it takes is to kill an enemy on player phase, right? That's what she does.
Yeah, that's all you got to do. And like she has advanced minimum, so it's pretty easy for her. And she's just very good. I think like she's a very fast unit. Very oftentimes when I was in 0%, the question for like getting a kill benchmark or getting a doubling benchmark was not who can do this. It was who, in addition to Shamir, can do this, because Shamir could just always kill anybody whom I ever wanted her to kill. Mostly thanks to this survival instinct giving her +8 offensive stats, which is higher than anyone else's personal abilities giving her.
I gotta ask the obvious though. Shamir kills someone on player phase, and then it's just Jova, right? That's her turn. She's done. It's an archer. We famously know they're known for not countering on enemy phase, right?
Well, that's why I'm not putting her in Sniper. I mean, here's the thing: Sniper can, right? Because she has close counter. So if she wants to, do that as Sniper, then she totally can counterattack at 1-3 range. And there are a lot of maps where I do that. But very oftentimes I have her as a flyer, or I use the survival instinct in conjunction with the dance to earn like a boss kill, or to earn a kill on a very dangerous enemy.
Thank you for clearing up this dumb misconception on my end.
All's fine, yeah. And then I think we have Catherine here as well.
Yeah.
And Catherine is, if we want to, we can show off the chapter 4 recruit Catherine, but I think actually that would just be so overbearing and like overshadow all the rest of our units that like maybe it would be a bit dissatisfying, because chapter 4 Catherine, let me put it this way: if you recruit Catherine in chapter 4, she is a level 7 unit, and if the entire rest of our roster had 100% growths and made it to level 7, and then you recruited Catherine, Byleth would, I think, match her strength, and Dedu would match her defense, and every other stat on every other unit would just be strictly lower than hers.
I remember doing research for my Catherine waifu, and I think the earliest you can deploy Catherine is chapter 5, because in chapter 4 she has like a story mission going on. But you probably have her in like your pick units menu, you just can't deploy her in 4, right?
Yeah, exactly. And she's like level 7, and she's like taking full advantage of these advanced minimums. So like level 7 Catherine is just better than level 9 Catherine. When you get to level 9, she gets like +1. I don't even know if she gains any stats at all. She just gets to level 9, which is like, who cares? I'd rather have the 2 extra levels of growth.
Yeah, and her personal exists too. If you don't have like any good battalions, or you'd rather give those to the other units, you just give Catherine no battalions. She gets like what, +4, +5 to both like her defenses. I think it's insane.
Yeah, +5 to both. Yeah, she just doesn't die and she kills everything. It's like, okay, like chill.
It is a lot of fun. We might do it. Chapter 5 is a slog, and it could be fun to like slaughter her in for like 1 chapter and then just leave her aside for other things to show off.
Yeah, no, be like. It does feel dissatisfying to have this unit who like breaks the game and be like, we're not using her because we're too proud, but I think we won't be using her because we're too proud, right? Like, you know.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago I was talking to P. Vladios and he's like, oh, you recommended going for like Pegasus Catherine for part 2 to like make sure she doesn't fall off or whatever, but actually just leaving her in Swordmaster makes her like really good even going into part 2, which is something I would like to try again, but also I already have a lot of other things I want to try, so it probably won't happen this playthrough.
Yeah, I will say Swordmaster is a good class. I'm a Swordmaster believer for sure. I like there are a lot of advanced classes that are better than it for sure, but I think like Swordmaster is like totally fine.
Fair enough. I want to give a quick note here that it might be a bit disappointing to some that I'm going Blue Lions, but not using the units that are in the Blue Lions for the most part. Like only Annette is here, and we mentioned that Felix is gonna make some cameos, and he's gonna be like a temp working at the office basically.
Yeah.
Part of the reason for that is because a lot of the in-house units don't particularly mesh well with the rule set I've given. For example, if I'm gonna restrict myself to not using multi-hit skills beyond like 1 unit, then someone like Ash is a lot harder to get going with because that's kind of what he relies upon to get serviceable, is just Sniper, Hunter's Volley. And in the same vein, in-house Ingrid is not very good. She's a lot better as an out-of-house recruit. Sylvain relies a lot on Swift Strikes, and Mercedes overlaps a lot with the magic queens we already have in Happy and Constance. So I made the executive decision to kind of leave them out, which I'm sorry, but I do have a Blue Lions playthrough on my channel where I think I use all these units, or if not most of them. It's a New Game Plus hard mode playthrough, but it exists. So if that's what you want to see, then I do have that.
Yeah. And in my opinion, the slots of units whom I suggested are very flexible to me. Like if we end up getting to a point and, you know, Leonie or Manuela or Shamir are just like not as good as some other option we have, I would rather use the better option.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely open-minded to teams changing. I'm
Yeah.
probably like more. I don't know if I'm like the most willing to bench units of like anybody, but no, I don't want to give myself the superlative. But you know, I'm very willing to bench units in my playthroughs. It's just something that I do.
Yeah. Just to make it absolutely clear, this is a team that we want to strive for, kind of just to have a plan in mind for what I want to do. But it is not set in stone, especially on a per chapter basis. I think Raisins might have already mentioned this, but for example, if Happy doesn't have any good staff utility in a chapter, or you know, faith utility in a chapter, just bench her for a chapter and she'll be fine.
Yeah,
and that kind of thing goes for everyone. So like, I can't imagine we never need rallies, for example. So Annette is probably coming to almost every chapter, but that's kind of the way I view these teams. It's like something to strive for. It's like when I was in teaching, there'd be a plan on the whiteboard for what we're gonna do every hour of the day, just so kids knew what they were going to get. But inevitably, things go differently than planned. So this is just a plan to have a plan, but it's not meant to be stuck to like glue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sounds good. I'm really looking forward to it. It looks like a good playthrough.
Same. Last note, because I think it's the only blue line we haven't mentioned yet at all, is the Do. I purposely didn't plan for him long term. 1, because he's a lot of overlap with Baltus, and 2, because he's not around for a couple of part 2 chapters. So my plan is for him to be one of the guard adjutants to keep people safe, and because he's easy to qualify for one, or I think he's practically already in one basically. And we'll probably need someone like Caspar or Raphael as well if you want to get more guard adjutants, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we need 3, up to a maximum of 3, to make sure everyone is fine. There might also be like Flame for attack support on Violet, stuff like that. Adjutants. But generally, I think we want to go with guard adjutants. I guess we could do the Cursed Armor Knight Flame.
Yeah, the funny.
I think that's most of it. Oh, we need to do our number crunching, of course. Almost forgot. So, as an example of the kind of things that I want to do, I made up 2 scenarios, I picked 2 scenarios where we want to figure out how to win the stat race. And the first one is up against the Chapter 2 enemies. There's 2 common enemy types. There's the Thieves and there's the Brigands. The Thieves have about 16 attack, and the Brigands have about 22 attack. And the Raisin theorem is if you want to hit a stat benchmark, you can. That is the theorem, right? That is, I'm not misrepresenting it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, if you look at the protection benchmark for 16, but like what I mean by these is like by hitting the benchmark, I mean I want to take 0 damage from this enemy.
Yeah.
So I want to take, if I have a 16 attack enemy, I want to hear the ting sound. I want to hear them go ping on my armor. So the example that I want to use is, and his name is here, Baltus. It's kind of a confusing spreadsheet. So just to check that I'm doing it right, the idea is you have a base 8 defense on Baltus if he's recruited in Chapter 2. If you can Leather Shield, he has +1 defense. If he has his personal activated, he has +6. And then if he has the Cirrus Mercs at level 3, he gets +1 and he has 16 attack. And the thieves can no longer hurt him. And you can just sit there and laugh at the enemies as they do no damage, and you win the chapter.
That's right. The famously difficult Chapter 2 is put in checkmate.
Yeah,
so.
Basically. If you just put Baltus in range, even if he doesn't kill everything, the enemies will be on low enough HP to where you should be able to wipe them out with a volley of curved shots and Tempest Lances and Smashes and Wrath Strikes and what have you. So even if he's not soloing the chapter by himself. I will say, though, one of the possible critiques I may have of winning the stat raise is that inevitably there's going to be enemies that we cannot hit the benchmark for. I don't think there's a way to take 0 damage from 22 attack, is there?
So you can stack a little bit more by doing Church of Saras Soldiers instead, level 5, which gives you the +3, and by using an Iron Shield instead. So that can get you a bit more. And I'm looking for the 22 attack Brigand. There's one 22 attack Brigand, and he is all by himself, and he doesn't move. So, like, that's one thing where just surely us as Fire Emblem players can come up with a way to not die to a 22 attack Brigand who doesn't move, right? Like, surely we can come up with some way.
Okay, is that the only guy that has that much attack? Okay, in that case,
yeah,
this might be. I do think there will be enemies in our future that move and actually are a threat that we might not be able to completely negate. Like, I don't want to be the enlightened centrist in the room that's like, well, actually both Raisins and Ringo are wrong and I'm the smartest here.
Yeah.
Just saying, I do know. I think there are stat benchmarks we also can't hit, and also I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said you can hit some of the stat benchmarks all the time, and you can hit all the benchmarks some of the time, but you can't hit all the benchmarks all the time, right? Do you agree with that? Do you agree with what he said?
I think so. I mean, there are some things which are outright impossible, like doubling Sword Masters. That's impossible because they have quick riposte.
Yeah, exactly. Although that's, but, like,
you
can't have infinite speed, and that's what it takes to double an enemy that you cannot double, I guess.
But yeah, no.
That's maybe get like veering away from math and into philosophical questions.
Yes, truly.
Before I go into the next benchmark, I want to show off a website that I'm using for this. Or rather, an image URL album that has all the stat benchmarks that you ever want to figure out. So all the enemy stats that you ever want to use to figure it out. So that's what I'm going to use to the first playthrough to see what I'm going to do, because I don't have access to saves of every single chapter. So this album that I'm going to be putting in the description, if I remember, has links to basically photos of every enemy that you can ever face in any chapter. So that's where I got the 22 attack Brigands that apparently, I think he's like on a bridge and he does move if you get in range, but you know, he will not until you make him. So I guess, yeah. Okay, yeah. It's also like 1 attack away from getting 0 from Costas, which is another big benchmark to hit. And also he's going to Gambit you, so who cares?
He has the Gambit.
My point is, our first aim in the playthrough will be to take 0 damage from this guy, from this 16 attack Brigand over here. This 16 attack
For sure. Yeah, lots of fun.
The next one will be to take out the Death Knight in Chapter 4. And that is quite a task because he is meant to be unbeatable, and I think in Maddening they boosted his stats even more just to make that a little bit harder. But I think it would be cool. It would be a cool way to show off that you can always win a stat race. So my man here has 37 attack and 17 AS and 46 HP and 18 defense. So you think in Chapter 4 you can't beat this guy. But then Raisins made this little Google Doc and said, yeah, you can actually. You use Chapter 4 Ignats, right? So can you walk me through what it takes to beat the Death Knight with Ignats?
Yeah, I mean, so you do need to have the rally strength and the rally speed, and you do need to have some way to get 4 bulk. So when I was doing this on my 0%, I used Kingdom Knights level 4 because I wasn't allowed to cook stats either with a cooking minigame. But we can just use a Church of Saras Soldiers and a 1 cook defense, and then we actually have it. And I will say, Ignat's stats are actually like very low. There are a lot of units who can do this if you recruit them. And give them the battalions for this task. Like a very large number of units who can do this. Ignat's stats are very low, and they happen to be like exact for this purpose. I remember when I was like going over it with a buddy, he was literally exactly meeting the AS one hit bulk and like attack benchmark for the whole thing, like only just. So, but this one's very good. So yeah, I did use the Kingdom Knights level 4. This one does require a rapier. So this is like a DLC only strat. One of the other strats I have to very consistently deal with this is also similarly a DLC only strategy of just using a Yuri wind sweep with the rapier, but I don't want to recruit Yuri in chapter 4, so I want to recruit him in chapter 7. But we can like discuss recruiting him in chapter 4 for the Yuri wind sweep rapier.
Yeah, if we find another unit that can do it, like let's say Felix hits these benchmarks a little more comfortably, probably, then maybe he can do it.
There is a very good chance that we get to this chapter and Felix actually just has the same stats as chapter 4 Ignatz. And so we can use Felix for this instead if we want to. But, we can also recruit this unit instead. I think if you don't have DLC, then for Blue Lions, probably the most reliable way to do it is to rush out Vengeance on Dedu. And then use someone who tanks the Death Knight at base, like Caspar or Marianne, and just like use them to bait the Death Knight and like kill them with Dedu Vengeance. I think is like the other reliable way to do it.
They sure tank it at base.
They do, yeah. Like,
I guess they technically retreat, they don't die.
Yeah. Well, like, here's the thing is if they lived, I wouldn't deploy them in any chapters after chapter 4, and if they die, then I wouldn't deploy them in any chapters after chapter 4. So therefore they live.
You
right?
Can tell their parents that.
Exactly.
Like, I didn't kill your child, I was just never gonna feel them again.
Yeah, come on. Like, don't worry about it.
I forgot to mention it, but I do want to try no deaths in this playthrough. So
okay.
I will not be suiciding Caspar, I will not be sending Caspar on a suicide mission. I'm going to kill him myself later on in part 2.
Oh, true. Well, you can still do that with the mission assist.
God damn it. But yeah, this is what the rapier will be for. If we find a way to do it without rapier, like you said, like with do vengeance, we can totally do that. How does this? Is this correctly describing 2-hit bulk, HP plus defense times 2? Because it looks like a lot, 74. I think the dude would never escape not getting doubled. Like, reaching 14 is a lot.
Yeah,
Can he win this stat race?
I've seen people able to do this before. I think this one's possible, actually.
Oh wow.
So I don't know how much like growths or masters are needed for it, but I know it's possible. I know Baltus can do it for sure.
But this is the correct calculation for 2-hit bulk, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Excellent. Nice. Maybe Baltus can do it too, although I don't think Baltus would struggle to do enough damage on enemy phase. I guess with the rapier, he would be fine. He does have... You can use it, right? You can use a rapier.
Yeah. It's E rank. Everyone can.
E rank, damn. Broken weapon.
That's kind of a good weapon. It's broken. Only after 40 uses it's broken, but yeah.
Is it like hard to repair?
It costs smithing stones, so no.
Based. I love this weapon. Every game should have a rapier. Good. Every Fire Emblem game should have a rapier.
It's quite good.
It's quite nice. Okay, so that's like one of our short-term goals for Kill the Death Knight. So for this, we should probably write down what we need. So we need a net to hit C plus authority, right? To get rally speed on someone that's not Ignatz, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We do need either Ignatz to, reach C authority to use Kingdom Knights and then level up the Kingdom Knights, or we need level 3 Church Star Soldiers and a Cook.
Okay. So C authority for him.
Yeah, it's actually kind of hard. Like, you need to grind.
Yeah. Or what was the other alternative?
Or level 5 Church Star Soldiers and a Cook.
Okay, fair enough.
Cook defense.
Oh, maybe. Just one?
Defense. I guess you could also cook speed and use the leather shield.
Can't you cook multiple defenses in this?
You can cook once per week and no more than 4 times per month.
Yeah. So as long as we visit the monastery, we can always cook, basically, because it's like a good thing to do. Anyway.
Yeah, which you have to do to recruit Ignatz, so, But yeah, you can also cook speed and use the leather shield. I just thought of that. You're right.
Oh, leather shield. I mean, that's -1 speed, isn't it? Or is it free weight?
It is -1 weight, but I think you originally typed in like cook +1 speed as like a typo, and then I was like, oh, but you can use the leather shield if you do that. So,
yeah, true.
It's up to you.
That's true. Okay, so that's like the kind of planning that I want to do in the episodes to figure out how to hit these benchmarks. So the plan is to, for Raisins and I, will be planning a lot of things off screen to figure out roughly what they need to do, and then go over our planning process as we're doing the month of the monastery, which will hopefully be fairly quick. and we'll have a lot of banter on loading screens. And then we'll play the chapter proper, see if our planning pays off. I want this playthrough to show off how easy it is to dominate maddening mode. I cannot guarantee that I am able to do this because I haven't played Three Houses in ages, but with your expertise, Raisins, I'm sure we can get halfway there. And,
For sure.
And I look very much forward to putting all this in action and learning a lot more about a game that I thought initially was very shallow, but is actually proven to be very interesting to analyze, number crunch, and hopefully in the end overcome. So,
yeah, I look forward to it.
Me too. So if you too look forward to it, do not forget to subscribe. I know you've been here for an hour listening to number crunching, so if you can't get enough of that, make sure to tune in. Also check out Raisins. He streams a lot. I actually know you've been playing a lot of Three Houses lately on your Twitch, right?
Yeah, I'm back to streaming every day, so it should be good.
Every day, dude. You are a monster. All right.
That's right.
Check him out. Link is in the description. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
See you next time.